The Great McGrady is the first episode of season 13. It is currently lunchtime, and Arthur and the others are currently heading to the cafeteria.
I wonder what's for lunch.
Hold on, I'll tell you. Let's see, 2 days past the full moon, it should be baked ziti.
What's that? Buster's school lunch almanac. He's been keeping a record of everything we've eaten since first grade.
Yep, she's 99% accurate.
That's autistic. While in the cafeteria, they notice that Mrs. McGrady, the school lunch lady, is currently not there. Instead, they're introduced to a new cook named Skip, who is currently filling in as a substitute.
Who are you?
Skip Bitterman, substitute chef. Goulash, anyone?
Now back in the classroom, Mr. Ratburn tells the students what happened to Mrs. McGrady. It turns out the reason why Mrs. McGrady has been absent is because she was recently diagnosed with cancer. Luckily, the doctors caught it early and they're working to try to make her better. After hearing the news about Mrs. McGrady, Arthur and DW heads to her house in order to take care of her. DW brought Mrs. McGrady some chicken soup and also learns more about her illness.
See, we're all made up of teeny tiny things called cells. You can think of them as flowers in a garden. Your body makes them every day. Unfortunately, my body is also making a few weeds. Right now, my body's trying hard to get rid of those weeds. And it takes a lot of work.
In the next scene, it looks like Francine isn't feeling like her usual self since she heard that Mrs. McGrady has cancer. It seems that the news has affected her day-to-day life, even to the point where she starts to miss school. Francine is later visited by Binky and Buster, who are planning to bring gifts to Mrs. McGrady. Binky asks Francine if she wants to join them to give Mrs. McGrady a visit. Francine turns down the offer, but before they leave, Binky tries to cheer her up by giving her Lance Armstrong's email address, which he got during the Elwood City bike-a-thon. Binky tells her about Lance's struggle with cancer and his eventual recovery, and encourages Francine to reach out to him.
When he got cancer, most people thought he'd never race again. But he got better and went on to win the Tour de France, the world's hardest bicycling race. And then he went on to win it 6 more times. That had never been done before. And no one has done it since.
The next day at school in the cafeteria, Francine tells the others that she received a reply for Lance Armstrong and that he'll be talking to her in person once he arrives in Elwood. 1 week later, Lance arrives at Francine's house. They both go on a bike ride, and Lance tells her how he got through his cancer diagnosis with the help of medicine and the support from his friends. After the conversation, Francine gets the idea to hold a Pedal for the Cure bike race to raise money for cancer research.
Amazing turnout, Francine. Thanks for all your help. You ready to ride?
The bike race was a huge success with a massive turnout. At the finish line, Francine is greeted by Mrs. McGrady and she apologizes for not visiting her previously. Mrs. McGrady tells Francine that she understands and gives her a hug. A month later, Mrs. McGrady returns back to school, but she's not entirely cancer-free, but she's healthy enough to work. The kids celebrate that she's back and the episode ends. This episode was banned due to the controversy surrounding Lance Armstrong. For those of you who don't know, Lance Armstrong is an accomplished cyclist who had won 7 of the Tour de France titles, which is an annual bike race held in France. It was later revealed that he won these titles with the help of performance-enhancing drugs. Liver King moment. Prior to the allegations, he was featured in one episode of Arthur, and after he was found guilty, PBS will pull the episode from airing again. However, this episode can still be found online if you know where to look. But that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button. If you thought this video was shit, make sure you hit the dislike button. I'm TzuNamii. Thanks for watching.